Well, hello, good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday training. For those of you that don't know me yet, my name is Karuna May. This is my school group. I'm super excited that you're here. Today, we're going to talk about something super important and something that I kind of thread throughout the teachings of the group all the time. And I want to take today to explain why I make such a big deal out of it. And that is when I say that perimenopause is probably one of the most potent and powerful times of our lives. I'm going to explain to you today why I'm saying that and why it's something that I really want you to hold in your awareness as you go through the steps. Maybe you're in maybe you're postmenopause, maybe you're premenopause and just start trying to get ahead of the game. Maybe you're right smack dab in the middle of perimenopause and things are fluctuating all over the place and you don't know what the heck is happening to your body. I'm going to take some time to kind of go through and talk about why perimenopause versus menopause, well, first of all, perimenopause versus menopause, and talk a little bit about how you can really, really lean into this time of your life to make it a point of power. I believe in this fully. I think that culture tells us women often that we are declining, that we're aging, that we just have to accept fates like our bellies getting bigger and our sleep getting worse and our moods going crazy and just feeling lethargic. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. It turns out there's so many things that we can do to really empower ourselves and shift the needle away from decline and into actual thriving. And this is my mission. This is my, why I feel like I'm put on this earth at this point in my life, being 51 myself. Let's get into it. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about the transition that changes everything. Perimenopause, premenopause to perimenopause and into menopause. And we're not just going to talk about the hot flashes, the hormone shifts, but we're going to talk about the real story underneath. And this is really about the body composition calibration that happens during this time that actually defines your health, your strength, and your vitality for the rest of your life. And this is why I'm telling you that this is the most powerful point. Because here's the truth, perimenopause is not the beginning of the end. I like to think of it as more of an initiation into your most powerful era. And as I said, I say this a lot in my program with my clients and in the trainings within the school group. So I'm going to explain to you why I say that. We're going to get into a little bit and why you should absolutely stop whatever it is that you're doing and listen. Because if you're thinking at all about how the next decade or the next 2 decades or more, or more are going to go for you in terms of your health and your body weight, your energy, and your just like overall vitality, then you really, really want to have this stuff in your mind. The problem is that as women, we're never really told that this is when the greatest body composition changes start to occur. And these composition changes are the ones that determine your metabolism rate, your muscle mass, your bone density, and even your brain function for the next couple decades. So let's first start with a little bit of clarity so we're all on the same page about what I'm talking about when I say perimenopause. Perimenopause is the transition phase from premenopause to full postmenopause. It often lasts anywhere from 5 to 10 years. It's when your estrogen and your progesterone start to fluctuate unpredictably. A big question that I get a lot is, well, how do I know if my symptoms are because of my hormones changing, because of menopause, or something else? And I think that's a really important question to ask. My answer, for the most part, is if you're over 40 and you're experiencing some of the classic symptoms, then it's the best place to start for sure. The first thing is I want to say that getting a hormone panel, I get this question a lot. Should I go to my doctor and have them run a hormone panel to see where my levels are? And some doctors will do that. A lot of doctors won't because the reality is that your hormones are fluctuating up and down and all over the place, so much so that taking a hormone panel will only give you a snapshot of that moment in time. And it doesn't really give you a big picture understanding of where you're at in the menopause process. So, for the most part, we go by symptoms. In perimenopause, you might feel like your body suddenly stopped playing by the same rules that you're used to, right? Maybe you're gaining weight around your belly, your midsection, your sleep is disrupted. Maybe you walk around feeling like you're in a haze or you've got some brain fog. Cravings really start to show up during this time, mood swings, even just feeling like something's off, like not yourself. I remember when I first turned 43, it was the first shift of major hormone change for me. And I just felt like I didn't know what was happening, but I just knew I didn't feel like myself. The perimenopause can bring the hot flashes, the night sweats. You might feel like your muscle tissue is disappearing, like right in front of your eyes. Um, and you may notice also that you're eating a little bit more, but not feeling as satiated. Maybe you're still getting a period, but the cycles start to change. The bleed cycle lasts a little bit longer, or the frequency changes. So this phase can start as early as 35 years old. And the average age of full menopause or hitting that moment of menopause, they're saying is around 52. So that's quite a number of years where these fluctuations can really cause a lot of confusion for us. And especially when our body starts changing and we don't really know what to anchor into um, to, to know what we need to change or to know what we need to do differently. So that's perimenopause. Menopause is defined as going one full year without a menstrual cycle. It's a moment in time. It's the date that you hit one full year without a menstrual cycle. And then we generally say postmenopausal. By that point, your estrogen and your progesterone have reached their new baseline. And um, the the fluctuations of perimenopause start to settle out a bit. It does take a little while for the body to get used to the new reality, the new biological reality of what postmenopause looks like. And we can talk about that in a different training. But here's the key, and this is the thing that I really want you to take away from today, is that perimenopause, that time when your body's fluctuating all over the place, this is the time where major body composition shifts happen. And again, this is why I say this is the most potent time to really lean into your health. If you can learn how to work with your physiology and your changing system during this time, then you can protect your metabolic flexibility, which is really important. You can preserve your muscle mass and your bone density, and we're going to get into it a little bit more as to why that matters and why that's important. And you can set the foundation for just your sense of vitality for the rest of your life. If you don't lean into this, then you're setting the tone for how you feel and how healthy you stay in that direction. So during, perimenopause, it's it's like a perfect storm of physiological change, right? So estrogen drops intermittently. It goes up and down, and with it, your body loses its natural protection against insulin resistance. That puts you at more risk for type 2 diabetes, but it also means that fat storage, especially the visceral fat, the fat that accumulates around the abdomen, becomes so much easier. Progesterone declines. When progesterone declines, your sleep and your mood starts going up and down. Your cortisol, your baseline cortisol levels go up, which then further drives fat gain, fat storage, and also water retention. Your muscle mass naturally starts to decrease. When I first heard this statistic, it kind of blew me off my chair, but your muscle mass naturally decreases by 3 to 8% per decade after age 30. So without strength training or specifically intentionally maintaining your muscle mass or building your muscle mass and getting adequate protein, that number can actually accelerate during perimenopause. Bone density starts to drop. This is where women start getting, little hints from their doctor that maybe osteopenia is starting to show up. That increases your fracture or your risk for fractures, especially in the coming decades. So this is a really important one to pay attention to now to set yourself up really well in the next decade, 2 decades. Your gut microbiome shifts. Hormone changes affects your microbiome, your digestion, your gut, and that affects your digestion. It affects systemic inflammation. It affects your mood, tendencies towards depression or anxiety. And then cognitive and emotional resilience can take a hit. And I hear about this one a lot from women because estrogen is deeply involved in neurotransmitter balance and blood flow to the brain. So, all this to say, the good news is that literally every single one of these changes can be influenced by your choices and by your lifestyle. The way that you eat, the way that you train, the way that you recover, and the way that you think. So I want you to start thinking of perimenopause as kind of like a metabolic puberty in reverse, right? Your body is recalibrating. We say aging, but really the body's just doing its best to get used to a new biological phase of your life, just like it did when you were going through puberty as a teenager and first had hormones starting to come on board. So, how you respond during this window of time determines the metabolic blueprint that you'll carry into your 50s, into your 60s, into your 70s, and even beyond that, if we're lucky enough to live that long. If you drift into this phase on autopilot, maybe under eating, which is a big problem that I see happening for women, overstressing, which is natural. This time in our lives can be very, very stressful. This time in our world is very, very stressful. But also, we're dealing with increased baseline cortisol levels that give us the feeling or the body responses of overstressing on a pretty regular basis. If you're over exercising or under exercising, if you're ignoring recovery, your metabolism starts to become less flexible, meaning that your body loses its ability to easily switch between burning fat and carbs. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But if you learn to rebuild your muscle, stabilize your blood sugar, manage your cortisol, nourish your hormones, then you create this really amazing metabolic flexibility, which means that not only now during perimenopause at this time in your life, that you feel all these changes happening, but also moving forward, you just burn fat more efficiently. You maintain your lean muscle mass, which is super important. You have stable energy and a responsive metabolism. So today I'm going to give you the 5 anchors of what I call midlife vitality. Okay, and I want you to write them down because these are the things that you want to pay attention to as you ease or maybe catapult into menopause or perimenopause. The first anchor is metabolic flexibility. That's what we were just chatting about. It's one of the most important ways that we can not only guarantee that our body maintains that resilience, but we also guarantee that we have the ability to eat the things that we want without freaking out that our body is going to just start gathering fat and adipose tissue. It gives us the ability to have more freedom with our choices with food and not feel like we have to live in this very specific restrictive lane or else our body will gain fat. Um, so it's the key to lifelong fat loss and energy. And it's the key to not getting trapped in that cycle of having to eat less and less over time in order not to gain weight. I remember when my mom first really got deep into her menopause, she was telling me, and I'll never forget this. She was like, it's like I just have to eat like a bird. And no matter what she did, her body was just kind of responding with gaining weight. It's because she had lost her metabolic flexibility. This is also key to being able, like I said, to eat your favorite dessert without having to freak out that you're going to gain the weight back. Um, this this point, metabolic flexibility, trains your body to burn fat and carbs efficiently through a combination of lifestyle things like strength training, strategic movement, protein levels, and not being afraid of fuel. The intermittent fasting movement has its place, and it can be really amazing for some folks. But what it has set in motion is this idea that you have to eat less and less and less food. Intermittent fasting is not inherently a calorie restrictive diet or a calorie deficit diet. But what ends up happening is that women start eating less and less and less, and their body goes into the famine state. And that absolutely messes with metabolic flexibility. Your metabolism tanks, goes to the toilet, and then you find yourself eating less and less. So, like I said, the number one mistake I see women making during this time of perimenopause is that they aren't eating enough. We are so programmed to think that if our body starts gaining weight, then we have to cut our calories. And in perimenopause, that's the exact like worst thing that we can do. Um, so you don't eat enough, your metabolism, gets flushed down the toilet. You end up having zero energy no matter what. Even if you sleep 8 or 9 hours, you wake up and you still feel tired. And no matter what you do, you keep gaining more and more and more fat, especially around your belly. So, and we know that that kind of fat, the visceral fat, is the most dangerous kind in terms of inflammatory diseases like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Um, so you have to ensure that you're getting enough calories in so that your body doesn't start to think that it's starving, goes into famine mode, and starts shutting down. So metabolic flexibility, super, super important. Muscle mass. So muscle is your longevity currency. Think about it that way. It protects your joints, it stabilizes your blood sugar, and keeps your resting metabolism high. So, because of this, another big mistake that I see women making is they start to shift their movement practice from, um, well, if they're ever are strength training, they start to shift it to walking. Some women don't ever really focus on strength training. And this time during perimenopause is the most important time to try to get your mind wrapped around strength training and resistance training. To continuously encourage your body to not only hold on to the muscle mass that you have, but to potentially build more muscle mass. And that's part of the body recomposition fluctuations that starts to happen. It's an amazing time to be able to shift your exercise mindset and build more muscle mass. This is the thing that helps metabolic flexibility. It's one of the things that helps metabolic flexibility. Muscle mass and metabolism kind of go together. So I'm here to tell you if you're not already thinking about resistance training or strength training, start to consider how you can incorporate that in your days. You can start with 1 or 2 times a week, but aim for 2 to 3 times a week eventually. And we'll talk about more specifics on how that looks and how we strength train as a woman potentially in our 40s or 50s or 60s in another training. So definitely keep your eye on these Tuesday trainings. I'm aiming for once a month. And quite potentially the next one might be on how do we strength train for our bodies using things like progressive overload and how do we recover fully. So watch out for that. The third anchor of vitality is your bone density. bone loss can accelerate by up to 20% in the first few years after menopause. But the strength training, vitamin D, and really good protein levels can actually reverse that trend. And in the exercise class that we will get to, I'll also talk about exercise things that can reverse things like osteopenia. In the research, we're seeing really, really incredible and encouraging results on with women who are doing light jump training, and we're watching their body redistribute where they put the calcium. So you can take calcium supplements all you want, but if your body's not putting it into your bones, it doesn't matter. You either excrete it through the urine or you can actually start storing it in your muscle tissue. So the key is not to just take a lot of calcium or drink a lot of milk or however you're getting your calcium, but the key is really is allowing your body or telling your body how to use that vitamin D and that calcium that you're putting in, and to actually put it into your bones to strengthen your bones. Lifting weights, of course, is again, the strength training is quite an investment in the structure and the support of your body, not just today, but when you're 70 years old or when you're 80 years old. We all know the story of, oh, she fell and broke her hip, and that was the beginning of the end. And this is, again, is why I really want you to start thinking of this time as an incredibly powerful opportunity to determine how you continue to age for the rest of your life. So bone density, light jump training, strength training, really consider how you can shift your mindset into thinking about not only maintaining bone density, but really asking your bones to work, because that's how they respond, is when they're asked to work, they will show up for you. Um, Walking is a really amazing form of exercise. It really works the heart. It really gets the blood moving. Um, it's a great way to keep your body moving, but I want you to consider some other things that you can do to really challenge your bones. So if you liked to jump rope when you were a kid, I did. I did the jump rope for heart, and I don't remember how long I went, but I loved jump rope training. Well, it wasn't training back then, it was for fun, but I loved jumping rope. So something like that could be incredibly helpful, not only for your cardiovascular health, but also for your bone density. Okay, so that's anchor number 3. Anchor number 4 is your gut health. Your gut microbiome influences your estrogen metabolism during this time. It influences your immune function. It influences your mood and your brain health. If you've ever heard of the gut-brain axis, we're not going to get into it. That's too much to talk about today. But there's a direct bidirectional communication line between your microbiome and your nervous system, your brain. And pretty much everything else, every stimulus that comes into the body has to go through the regular channels of the nervous system. But when it comes to your gut, it has a direct line from your gut to your brain. In research, we're seeing really positive impacts on microbiome or gut health in treating things like anxiety and depression. So there's specific strains of probiotics that has a positive effect on women that are experiencing higher levels of anxiety and depression. And on the flip side of that, we're also seeing some anxiety and depression medications that are having a positive impact on the gut microbiome. So really, really fascinating stuff. So focusing on gut health is a really important and awesome way to make sure that you are keeping your hormonal and endocrine health nourished. Eating fiber-rich foods. In my program with my clients, I talk to them about eating the rainbow, and it's a really fun way to ensure that you're getting all of the fiber rich foods that are feeding the good bacteria in your gut. Fermented foods like kimchi is always a really great way to feed the good bacteria in your gut. and reduce the inflammatory triggers. So, alcohol is one of the biggest ones. Sugar is another big one. When your gut is balanced, your hormones and energy have a higher chance of following suit. So, anchor number 4 is gut health. Anchor number 5 is cognitive function. Brain fog and cognitive decline is not inevitable. It's a signal that your metabolism and your neurotransmitters need support. Quality sleep, blood sugar balance, omega-3 fatty acids, mindful and intentional stress regulation, all of these things protect your cognitive vitality. A really, really cool thing that I see happen in my group over and over again is in the second week, we do a liver health protocol where we just really nourish the liver in a really big way with eating such incredible foods. I call them liver ally foods. And inevitably, one of the first things that I hear from my clients is my brain fog is gone. The recall, the word recall, where you feel like oh, that word, I can't figure out, that word that I'm trying to say starts to lift. And so I really want you to hear what I'm saying when I say that perimenopause can be the most powerful time of your life in determining your vitality as you move forward. And that's all great and dandy, and I'm making a big deal out of it, but also, like, don't we deserve to feel amazing in our bodies right now, like today and tomorrow? And those 5 anchors are the things that will help you feel like you're glowing and gracefully going through this stage of perimenopause. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. And I think that culture and the Western medical system, the way that it's set up right now, really highlights the negative effects. And yes, they're there, but there's so many things that we can do to bolster our system, to nourish our system, to not only make us feel incredible in our bodies right now and to help us feel like we're in the power seat of our health right now, but also helping us age in a way that maybe we're envisioning. I don't know about you, but my son is 17 years old, and I don't know if he's going to have kids or not. That's up to him, but if he does choose to have kids, I want to be the grandma that can get on the floor and play and go for a bike ride. And that's the vision of my future that I want to hold. So I hope that this is helpful. The perimenopause and menopause experience, it's not something to survive, right? There's something to really envelop, and I don't want to say to master, but to be in the power seat of. You're not at the end of your prime. You're standing at the beginning of a new one. And this is time. This is the time to really take ownership. Build the muscle, protect your metabolism, shape the health that will carry you through the next 40 years with energy, with confidence, with radiance. Um, just remember that your body's not broken. It's just asking for a new strategy. It's asking for a strategy that's built for this phase of life. And if you've watched any of the videos in the classroom, you'll hear me say this over and over again. It's not that you're doing things, or it's not your fault if you're struggling to lose weight, to find more energy, to figure out how to get into the gym or get out for that walk. It's just that the diet world and the health world has really been curated for bodies that are not a middle-aged woman body going through the hormone changes that we're going through. So if you're really seeking better health, and you're really invested in it, it's there. It's just different information, and that's why I'm dedicated to having this group for all of you and communicating the actual research, the actual science, and the actual strategies that will make a difference for you and will start moving the needle in the direction that you want to go. And that's why, I keep saying everything that I do is based on science, strategy, and soul, and that is 100% the truth. So, for everybody that's here, for anybody that's listening to this later, The 15-minute call that I offer in the group for all new members is everything. It's everything. It's a free call. It's not a sales call. You're not going to get on the call and I'm going to try to get you into my program. That's not how it works. I'm much more specific and too specific about the women that I work with in my group to do that. I'm offering this 15-minute call as a gift because I know how challenging it is to filter through all of the information that feels conflicting and confusing that's going on out there. So on the 15-minute call, I ask you what it is that you're doing. I ask you what your goal is. I've been doing this a long time, so it doesn't take very long for me to see the things that you just need to shift or need to tweak or need to start doing in order to get the needle to start moving in the direction that you want it to go. The most frustrating thing that I hear from women is that they are doing potentially all of these things. They're eating really well, they're hitting the gym, they're going for walks, they're getting their 10,000 steps in a day, they're drinking a bunch of water, and their body's not budging. A single pound won't go away. And that's the most frustrating thing. And almost 100% of the time, the reason for that is because they're in what's called hormone-related weight loss resistance. That's another class that's in the classroom in Module 1 called Hormone Mastery. If you want to go check that out, I highly recommend it. But if that's you, if you are doing all the things and nothing is shifting, then you might be dealing with what's called hormone-related weight loss resistance. And the solution to that is not uh, complex. It's not difficult. It's just different than probably everything that you've been hearing. So, all that to say, book that 15-minute call and I can help you get on the right track, make the changes that you need to make in order to start feeling a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to open it up. If anybody has any questions or comments or anything like that, please feel free to unmute yourself.